Hey guys, welcome back to the Pastor to Pastor podcast. We're super excited to have you guys with us. We took a short little hiatus. The main reason is because Dan Livingston, also known as my dad, we call him PD around here, so you'll hear me say PD a lot. He was stage diving off ladders.
Yeah.
And
not quite like that, but it was a fall.
Yeah, so he fell off a ladder. Pretty serious injury. I mean, it wasn't small.
No, 13 breaks in the ribs and 3 fractured vertebrae and a broke wrist. That was it.
Yeah, doctor said you shouldn't even be here.
They told me 3 specialists said you're not supposed to be here. If you are here, you're supposed to be paralyzed for life. Yeah. And thankfully that neither of those 2 are true.
Well, we're here.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, ready to roll again.
That's it. So, man, we're excited and getting more and more content out to you guys as pastors, and man, we know it. And you're hearing more and more. We got more and more pastors calling, more and more pastors connecting with us, and you know, it's the same thing over and over. What are they all saying right now?
2 things. Again, the anxiety level of pastoring today of just, you've got your seniors that are like, you know, I was told I'm going to do this till I die, and now I realize I'm not. Mm-hmm. So what do? I had no plan.
Yep.
You know, and you find out you're 60, 65, 70 years old, and the church is going, we really don't need your services anymore. What do? So you have that panic. And for those that are not there, they're seeing their friends that are there, and they're going, kind of late to plan for that, you know. So you have that extreme, and then you have your young guys that, you know, if we don't change that system, you know, then we're just going to keep repeating the cycle. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to get in and really educate our young pastors on how to build a church properly, to not just grow a church now, but for that church to thrive later under the people that you mentor to take over, you know, through a healthy succession. And whether you're the young guy or the older guy, we're hearing the same thing. Yep. Anxiety. Yep. And then I'm alone.
Yeah. So you got the alone. First one of anxiety of what happens after this. Right. And the second one is the I'm alone concept.
Absolutely. And through Barna statistics, it's 47, I think, % of pastors said they would change occupations today if they could and still make the same income or better.
Right.
And the 2 reasons they gave, number 1, anxiety. Number 2, I feel alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
absolutely.
The statistics they're there. They're real.
Yeah. We don't have the statistics for this next batch of information out of Ed Young. That kind of goes along with what we were talking about. We've got some podcasts in the future. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but in the idea of feeling alone, a lot of times I think pastors feel alone or are alone. And part of that's just because we have walls up, you know, we're not letting people in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of times justifiably so, but I remember Ed Young, and again, I don't know where the statistics came from on this. So, I'm just kind of trusting Ed Young a little bit, but I can see its accuracy in myself. And I know you feel the same way. The average person loses 7 relationships in a lifetime. The average person. So they lose 7 significant relationships in a lifetime, and a pastor loses 7 significant relationships in a year.
I can see that.
And so essentially pastors face a lifetime of rejection every single year.
Yeah. And you know, that rings a bell to me because years ago, I remember the statistic then was you will have 7 true friendships in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So how that connects.
I'm sure it's connected. You know, so, and again, I don't have all the reports on that, but I know I can see it being true. I know, again, we'll deal with this in later podcasts and later blogs and stuff. I know this past year was the last year and a half has been my wife's first experience of relational departure. Right. So we've done our best to I've done my best to guard my wife and try to not let the leadership role and pastoral role get to her in that type of sense. And, you know, it's only a matter of time. You know, they experience what we experience. And last year, well, it was this year. No, it's all been this year. Oh, golly, all of them have been this year. this year she experienced it, and walking her through that and the pain of it. And so we've got some stuff coming in the weeks to come. So, or months to come, just about dealing with some of those things and what we can do. But today, we are talking about radical reconstruction, and the reconstruction is reconstruction is a kind of a buzzword right now in the Christian community. So reconstruction and deconstruction both kind of have their own meaning, but we want to talk about reconstruction, radical reconstruction of a pastor. And before we kind of get into the weeds of that, what's just kind of the opening statement that would explain your heart or what you want to say about radical reconstruction of a pastor before we get into the deep weeds?
Well, I think many times, especially young pastors, we go into the ministry with a totally false concept of what it really is. And so there's an immediate deconstruction,
Yeah.
And not that it's all bad. I don't want to even come out, I wouldn't change the world. I wouldn't change anything for the world,
Sure.
To know the 43 years of ministry, there's been a lot of pain in that.
Yeah.
But wow, the testimonies and the positive stories and the life changes that we've watched God do in people, and to be a part of that and know in eternity, it's really going to matter.
Yeah.
But there's a deconstruction that takes place when you go into ministry, like you said with Ashley. You live in the church all your life, and then you become a pastor's wife. It's a different world. That church changes very, very quickly because now relationships. It's not, I'll see you on Sunday and we go away. Now you're in the middle of that person's problem.
Yeah.
And so they're either going to agree with you, disagree with you. They're going to believe in you more, or they're going to walk away oftentimes.
Yeah.
And so there's a deconstruction that takes place.
So so what you're saying is it's not a deconstruction of our faith. It's a deconstruction of our presupposition, our pre-established idea of what this was going to be like.
I definitely, that is a major part of it. And I believe in the journey, and part of that journey challenges our faith.
Yeah.
As we'll get to, later in the discussion, that disappointments, wondering where's God at in this? I've done everything your word says, but I don't see you here. And so your faith gets challenged.
So it impacts our faith.
It does.
It's not that we're losing. It's not that, for the most part, it's not that we're abandoning our faith or turning away from Christ as much as it's, again, we had an idea of the way this was supposed to go.
Correct.
And now we have to deconstruct, dismantle, or it's being dismantled, and now we got to reconstruct. What does ministry look like now that it's all kind of falling apart? Yeah. And so take me through. This is something you're passionate about. This has kind of been real for you. So talk. My bad. Talk to me through what's happening for you through all of that's gotten you to this point. Because this is, like I said, this is an experience for you, right? So this is it's personal. You've navigated this. What is it? What has that been for you?
Well, if I can, I always like to bring a little scripture in so that we, to lay a foundation. I won't go into and read all of it. Matthew 5:1-10. We see the Beatitudes, and then we look at that. And we see that it really shows us a radical reconstruction of the heart if we really bring it into the walk of a pastor. And I'll just kind of break that down real quick. As we look at that, we can see the sequence of the journey. First, we recognize that we as pastors or shepherds we're in need. We're poor in spirit. The more we minister, the more we know we're in need of being ministered to by the presence of God and the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. Next, we find ourselves repenting of our self-sufficiency, and there we find ourselves mourning at times, of the lack of what we really see in ourselves. We see the need of God. There's a need, but then we see the lack of what we find ourselves actually mourning. Then we stop trying to be in charge and we surrender our control over to God, and we become meek. There's a meekness there. And we see these in the aspects of ministry, and we become so grateful for His presence that we find ourselves yearning and longing for more. And there we hunger and thirst in our spirit. And what does this actually mean? and deconstruction, reconstruction, is that we find out that we're no different than the people that we minister to every week.
That's so true.
You know, we preach this, and I'm bringing that out, that we preach that so hard to our people, and we ignore that we're walking the same journey, oftentimes at a deeper level than even they are.
Yeah.
You know,
So true.
when I carry the needs, and, you know, you're carrying the needs as a lead pastor, you know, over 1,000 people a week now, that's like having 1,000 children. I think you need God. You know, you need wisdom.
Yeah,
you need
sure.
guidance. You need count.
Yeah.
You know, you recognize I have a greater need than I had before. I had this great church is thriving, but there's a need there if I'm going to pastor this place.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and so when we look at that, all of a sudden it means that we're in the same boat that they are. And what that does is it brings us to the reality that we're human beings just like they are. And things come in our life that, you know, going into our journey, you know, as a man of 43 years of ministry, you know, during that process, during that journey, you know, in 2010, my son, your brother, were a motorcycle accident. We get a phone call. Our son's laying dead in the side, Airport Boulevard, died 3 times, wound up on life support with 0 chance to live for 24 days. Man, my faith was challenged.
Yeah.
You know, everything you believe in all of a sudden gets challenged, put to the test. You know, God gave us a miracle there. And then, you know, we get the news that my grandson, your son, Jabin, you know, 18 months old, is diagnosed with terminally ill disease, neurological disease. That's 1 in 2 billion, I believe, odds that they said. So rare that most doctors had never heard of it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true.
And we're taking on a 3.5-year journey. You know, that I was pastoring the church full time. You were a youth pastor, but we were in the transition of bringing you in. You know, and it expedited it a year, really. But I needed to be with Jabin, and that was something that was hard for you to be there in that situation. So you were at the church, and so I'm sitting with my grandson, you know, hours and hours and hours a day, right where I wanted to be and needed to be. But man, my faith got challenged big time, because I did everything that book said to do, that I had preached for 38 years, and I didn't see it work.
Yeah.
And it really challenged my theology, you know, and I've had other things challenge it, but just, man, this journey, it was like different.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a radical destruction, you know, deconstruction of my theology, of my faith, not in a belief in God, but did I lie half the preaching I did? You know, is this thing really true? Everything that I preached, and really, I mean, after that journey, you know, God took Jabin from us, you know, and it was all, I understand it now, but even after pastoring for 38 years, I couldn't grab hold of that. You know, it was like just slapping my face at, you know, and of everything that I had taught. So there was a deconstruction in that 3.5 years of a lot of things inside of me as a person.
Sure.
You know, and then, you know, just recently, a daughter going through a divorce, a very ugly divorce, first divorce of our family, and it's been like a total shock to us, you know, but then for a year journey to coach my daughter through this, and it turned very ugly and even dangerous, and all of those things, and to cover her and protect a granddaughter and take care of that situation, you know, just so many things that challenge your walk, that are there to deconstruct your journey, you in the midst of your journey, that there has to be some reconstruction. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And, you know, thankfully, you know, I was blessed to be surrounded by some very strong and positive voices that most pastors don't have. And that's why we're here.
But every pastor must have. Yeah.
If you're going to walk this journey out, you will not walk it out by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm reminded, you know, I think back to Tommy's wreck, my brother. I think back to his motorcycle wreck, and it was one of those deals where, you know, our faith was challenged, but it felt like our faith was challenged but we were still on a mountaintop of faith.
Yeah.
It felt like, you correct me if I'm wrong, and you feel free to give your perspective, because you were the championing voice for us at that time. It was like, we're taking our son home. Like, it was, you're telling the doctors are like, you need to sign organ donor papers, and you're going, we're taking our son home, and anyone that doesn't agree, just don't come in the room.
No, I mean, yeah, no, you're right. It's one of those times where you say something and then you leave the room and go, God, you better show up.
Yeah, where did that come from?
I'm gonna look like a fool because I don't know where, I was in a deer stand an hour and a half away when they called us and we got to the hospital, and they immediately took your mom and I and Cindy into a room, and the doctor said we never should have revived him the third time. He's that bad, and said he won't live through tonight. And just something, I can't even explain it, just came out of me. He said, no, we're taking our son home. We'll take him home well. And we never lost that belief, through 24 days of just nothing looked possible. Every day it got worse and worse medically.
Yeah.
And, like you said, till they finally were calling us in to fill out donor papers, and we're like, we're not going to do it. We're taking our son home well. And God gave us Tommy back miraculously,
Yeah.
And then Jabin's story was completely different.
Yeah, my son. Jabin, my son.
So many people said, well, if God did it with Jabin, and we had people tell us you didn't have faith, or, the whole thing that people go through.
Stupid things Christians
things to say.
Yeah.
But, but I can never say, I can say this, I never thought for a second God was going to take Jabin. I never thought for a second. Your mom she didn't feel like he was going to die, but she never got that word. But I can say I never had that 100% voice from God like we had with Tommy.
Right.
And one was like, boom, he's dead, and he's either going to bury him, or so it wasn't a gradual thing like with Jabin. Where Jabin's was a process.
3.5 years.
Tommy was an instant.
Yeah.
He's dead. Is he going to live? And you got to make some kind.
Yeah.
And Jabin was a progressive thing, and I don't know if that had something to do with it or not. Probably did. Yeah. But it wears you.
Yeah,
for a while. Obviously, you know that better than I do. Mm-hmm. But but I didn't just lose. That's what I tell people. I didn't just lose my grandson. I had to watch my son and daughter-in-law lose a son. Mm-hmm. And I'm dad. Mm-hmm. I'm pastor. I'm supposed to fix this.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was the same with my daughter right now. I'm supposed to fix everything, and I can't fix a broken marriage. That's not salvageable. I can't fix it. And so it's been a journey of having to go back to the Word of God and go back to some positive voices and go back to therapy, to find the help that you need to reconstruct a pastor's heart, And one of the greatest things that happened to me on that journey was a great friend, Pastor Scott Thomas, who's been one of those voices, pulled me aside on a hunting trip. And, because we hunt up in Kentucky and we talked, but he said, you got to see a therapist, Dan, because he was a therapist for years in mental health. And he said, you're in depression and you don't recognize it. And I said, I'm not depressed. I'm just sad and angry, and he said, no, you're in depression. And I went to see a professional counselor, non-Christian. He said, you don't need a Christian counselor right now that's going to put scripture in your lap. You're angry at God and you already know the word, so that's not going to work.
Right.
He said, you need somebody that's going to tell you how to put your left foot in front of your right foot and live life again.
Yeah.
And I found one. Mm-hmm. And she was a lifesaver to me. She happened to be a Christian woman, but didn't hold a Christian clinic,
counsel. Yeah.
And she walked me, she took me to all the way back to childhood experiences that I did not want to go back to, but had not really dealt with properly. Mm-hmm. And, and just took me on this journey through Jabin. It was painful as can be, man, but a lifesaver. And I tell pastors now two things. You need to have a professional therapist on call in your life. Mm-hmm. And you need to have some pastor friends that you can call at any moment, and they're going to help walk you through that journey.
Yeah.
You can't do it by yourself.
And they don't care how big your church is.
They don't care, or how small.
That's what. Yeah, they don't. They don't care about the size of your church.
No, they care about you.
Yeah, and that's what I think for so many people. and I know of a pastor you're working with right now. We won't say anyone's name, but who's in a network and is struggling with the size of his church in relation to friends and some of those things. And I don't know all the details of what you guys have talked about, but I know that those are realities. And I'm in a pastor's network. I'm connected to, even outside of pastor to pastor. I have another network that I'm connected to. And, and one of our phrases is, you need to have pastors in your life that don't care how big your church is. They're not impressed by you. You're not a means to an end for them. You're not someone they're trying to get to come speak at their conference, although that may happen. That's not the basis of your relationship. And so that's huge and necessary, as we kind of worked through what you were just describing, with Tommy and Jabin, as I felt that when Tommy got in his accident, it truly felt like we were on a mountaintop of faith. And when Jabin got diagnosed, I felt like we were in a valley of faith.
Yeah.
It's like the same faith, but we prayed, we trusted God. We had faith. We had faith. We believe, we were praying. We believed that God was going to heal him. And at the end of the day, we know that he did, he took him to heaven and he's whole there. And, there's, have that whole conversation. But at the end of the day, we all believed that he wasn't going to go to heaven, but that he was going to go to heaven, but not at 5 years old. Right. And that but it always felt, and it may have been the fact that it was 3.5 years of a brain disease that ultimately that the Lord took him home, and it may have been the 3.5 years. I don't know, but it didn't feel like the mountaintop of faith. It felt like the valley of it. And in the middle of that, I had some theological reconstruction that I think then empowered you to have some theological reconstruction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was the revelation, that God gave you that brought insight to me and many others.
Yeah.
That, really helped us to understand more, the actions of God and the whys. Doesn't take away the pain. It doesn't, me or you or anyone that loved Jabin, but it does give understanding. And when you have that understanding, it helps you then. We had a family that are now part of our church that they were here Sunday. And I shared our story of Jabin at a men's conference at their church where they were attending before. And then just a year ago, they suffered a horrible, horrible tragedy in the loss of their 5-year-old son. Just horrible how it happened. Can't even fathom walking through their journey. And yet he came up to me Sunday and just wanted to talk some more. And he said, it was your story and your family's story that got us through our story. And now they have a story to tell themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, there's purpose in everything.
Yeah.
We just don't like getting there sometimes.
That's so true.
But I think as a pastor, getting back to that aspect of it, that all of that wears on you.
Yeah.
It deconstructs you. It breaks you down, like you say, it's sometimes it's mountaintop faith, sometimes it's valley faith. Thankfully, it's not according to our faith and the size of it.
Yeah.
It's who we have our faith in. But yet we're human beings, and I found this out, and I really found it out in this journey with our daughter, my daughter, your sister, going through this divorce. Is that so many times I wanted to take control of it personally. That puts you in prison. You don't want to do that. But it was not so much. You go through the thing that I'm supposed to cover my daughter. I'm supposed to protect you and with Jabin, whatever, Tommy. And there's areas that are totally out of my hands. And it's not, there were times that I would wonder, how does my daughter see me when I have to watch and let people keep just beating the fire out of her emotionally and physically and trying to financially and get away with it, and the court system allow it. And then yet the truth of the matter was she never saw me any different than being a loving, caring, protective father in her conversation with me. It was how I was seeing myself, you know, and, you know, because you're supposed to change this. You're supposed to not let this happen again, you know.
Yeah.
And it's how you unconsciously see yourself. And I think in ministry, we have to really guard and protect ourselves. You know, you've been lead pastor 5 years, and thankfully we have a very healthy house here. And so I think that was probably one of the few times that you've had to deal with a real painful separation, you know, as far as someone in the church that's walking away. Now I know there's been others, but, you know, but to a level of pain like that and disappointment, you know, but
yeah, there's been about three this year that affected me and my wife. So but I would say so. This year was the worst for sure.
Yeah. And it's how you pour your life into it, and then when it doesn't, it's not fixed and resolved.
Yeah,
it's hard not to go back and look in a dark room and go, where did I go wrong?
Right.
You know, because we care about people.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want, you know.
How could I have fixed it?
Yeah. What could I have done different to have made it right?
Yeah.
You know, different than what I did, when you know that you did everything you could possibly do, but yet there's that beating in the background that just, you know,
and it's
wears you out.
And I mean, some pastors may be better at this than I am. I'm not good with this, but it is personal rejection. Because it's like, it's not personal. It's like, but it is, you know, like, you know, if you know, whatever I go through, it's always going to feel personal. And especially if it's relationships, it's like, you can't tell me it's not personal. Like, you know, it has to do with me. Like, I know it has to do with me. Like, you know, and you may not even be right, but the fact is I still have to wear that weight to some degree. Right. And so that's why it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah. So you know, when going back on the topic, I feel like, you know, I wish someone had told me, you know, 43 years ago, that you have to reconstruct often and regularly. Yeah. That if not, you're deconstructing without realizing it over time. And eventually that will catch up with you. Yeah. There will be a moment where there's a collapse in your life personally and in ministry, family, whatever. Yeah. And that we have to go back to those scriptures and realize that we're in need. And that we do mourn, you know, and that we hunger and thirst, you know, that there's a place of meekness that, you know, we just come and reside in God and rest in Him, you know, but that journey is a continual journey for a person that's in that pulpit week after week after week after week and giving and giving and giving. And, you know, and if you don't come back and do some reconstruction on a regular basis, there's a calamity down the way. Yeah. You know,
that's so true.
And we, you know, hopefully pastor to pastor, you know, it's just, you know, some of the text messages and emails that we've received recently from some of the pastors that we're working with right now. And, you know, it's just it's a joy, man, to know that God's letting us be a small part of that reconstructive process of just keeping pastors healthy. Yeah. You know, giving hope where situations and guidance where, you know, just a little guidance here or there. You know, just want to be a safe place that pastors can come and cry and scream and fuss and quit and do whatever they need to do and then get back in the saddle on Monday and go, we're going to do it again.
That's right. That's right.
And do it because we want to and we love doing it.
Absolutely.
You know, and so that's what we hope. That's our prayer.
Yeah. No, that's so good. And so we have a blog out right now called Radical Reconstruction of a Pastor, and you can go kind of read some of the words that Pastor Dan PD has put down on paper for us to absorb and be encouraged with. And you know, we want Pastor to Pastor to be a resource for all of you, for pastors that are out there. And if you have yet to connect with us, please do so. Go to pastor-to-pastor.life. You can connect with us as far as just checking out more of our resources. If you want to partner with us, you're like, man, not only do I need this, I want to help keep Pastor to Pastor moving forward. You can partner with us. Just go to pastor-to-pastor.life and you can click on partner with us, or at the top, just click on give and it'll show you how you can jump in with us. I mean, we'd love to connect with you and whatever you need. We just want you to know you're not alone. You've got someone out here that you've got people out here that want to be there for you, and I think that's a big thing, that we'll be talking about. I'm working on a series of blogs right now that I think we're going to release consecutively around the guilt of rest.
Yeah,
and with the guilt of rest, what is it? How do we identify it? How do we overcome it? But then also, like, what are some tangible things that we need to pay attention to in our life? And so that's coming up down the road as well. We'll be getting those out and some podcasts out for those as well. And then we've talked about, we're going to drop some bonus episodes on you guys too. Just some things that we believe could help your church. And so be looking out for some of those things too, talking about culture, talking about leadership, some things that not only we do at Transformation Church, but we've seen very successful at other churches that, things that can be done at any church of any size to really help shaping, because we know that if as you get better, you can build a healthier church, and as you build a healthier church with healthier leaders and healthier culture, it makes what you do easier. It'll never be easy, but it can be easier, and so we want to resource you with some of those things too. So continue to check in with us. But PD, thank you so much. Thank you for your heart for pastors. And if we can ever do anything, please go to pastor-to-pastor.life and let us know. We would love to connect with you. We'll check you guys out next time for another episode of the Pastor to Pastor podcast.